As part of our new series on discipleship, I invited the women of our parish last week to consider participating in the Women of Grace study series. It begins next Sunday in the Parish Center, shortly after the 8 o'clock Mass. This is a series that will help you respond to your call to discipleship, learning, and serving. That's the title of this series, because disciples are lifelong learners and disciples serve. In these first few weeks of the series, I'm going to offer to you opportunities to learn. In the later weeks of this series, I'm offering you opportunities to serve. And these are all opportunities that anyone can get involved in. Because I can do that. Well, that was easy, kind of like that Staples button. You press it. That was easy. Yeah. These are all easy things. Anybody can do them. Last week, I promised that this week I would offer something for the men of the parish. But I was reflecting on the first reading from Wisdom, and I'd like you to listen to it again. Here's what the writer of Wisdom says. I prayed, and prudence was given to me. I pleaded, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her to scepter and throne, and deemed riches nothing in comparison with her. Nor did I liken any priceless gem to her, because all gold in view of her is a little sand, and before her silver is to be accounted mire. Beyond health and comeliness I loved her, and I chose to have her rather than the light, because the splendor of her never yields to sleep. Yet all good things together came to me in her company, and countless riches at her hands. Wow. Doesn't that sound like the kind of lady every man longs for and hopefully finds in his wife? And women, for you, doesn't that sound like a pretty high level to aspire to? You might ask, well, how do I get there? How can I get this? How can I have this kind of person? It's really not a very different question than what the man who knelt before Jesus asked. What must I do to inherit everlasting life? And Jesus clearly indicates to this man and to those listening, it ain't easy. It's like a camel trying to enter through the eye of a needle. It's impossible. It can't happen. Of course, that was an image that didn't fall on deaf ears when Jesus spoke those words. The eye of the needle was a particular gate in the wall of the city of Jerusalem, very small. A child could easily pass through it, but a grown adult would have to skinny his way through, as it were. No way would a camel be able to fit in. And their response to such an image is, who can be saved? That's a fair question. And Jesus' response is quite simple. Who can be saved? How can I have, or how can I find that kind of person to have a relationship with? Only when you first have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, I say that, and you think to yourself, well, you're a priest. You have to say that. But I say that first because I'm a man, because I believe. Wouldn't it be better, though, if that message came from a married man, a man who has a family, someone who has heard this call to discipleship, to enter into a personal relationship with Jesus, and who wants to share that same relationship with others? Allow me to introduce to you Ray Weicker, who will speak about his relationship with God, with Jesus, and an invitation to be a man.
Expertise. I just have to laugh at that. One time we probably would have been less humble, and they would have, oh yeah, I know all these things. What I've learned in my relationship with Jesus, especially in the last year, that basically I don't know anything. Why I'm here is to share an experience. Many years of my life, I aspired to be just a little bit like my grandfather. My grandfather was Paul Hutta. Now, Paul Hutta was a section of St. Cyril's Methodius Church for all his working life. All right. He didn't use a backhoe when he buried someone in the wintertime or in the summertime or whatever. He used dynamite, pick, and shovel. He didn't have a driver's license. He walked everywhere. But my grandfather was a holy man. Now, I know that because everyone told me he was a holy man. Everyone told me he was a living saint. And the bottom line is, when you are exposed to holiness, okay, which we all are created in the image and likeness of God, and the likeness of God is the sacredness of God, and the sacredness of God is the holiness of God. And from baptism, you are given the graces to become holy. Now, you can know a lot about Jesus Christ, because that's what I aspire to do. But in the long run, I still had what we call an emptiness. Because there's two voids for love. There's a human void, and there's a spiritual void. And years ago, when they would have individuals like in the Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam, in a little cell, the individuals that made it had a religious or spiritual life. Because they had that void of God filling the love, their spiritual void. But God can also fill your human void. God could fill that void when you're not around any people. You can feel still loved and cared for. But when you try to do it the other way around, when you, as a married man of 92, so 23 years, when you're trying to, you have a sense of sometimes of loneliness, even in a marriage, you end up at times, if you're just relying on your spouse to love you, then you become bitter when you're not loved. And the bottom line is that's because you are sensing something missing. And it's not your spouse's fault. It's because I know, didn't have that spiritual void filled. So I remember last year, I'm looking at my, scripture books and my theology books. I'm saying, oh, well, I should give them the goodwill because I'm not going to be doing that. I'm in outpatient therapy now, and that's my, where my talents lie. Well, the Hound of Heaven didn't give up. So the bottom line was I was watching a show on YouTube, Father Larry Richards, about being a man. And one of the key things about Father Richards always says is, you don't get out of bed without opening the Bible, and you don't get in the bed without opening the Bible. Now, the Bible to me was a tool to study about Jesus Christ. Like Father was saying here, different things about the eye of the needle and all this stuff. I learned that stuff. But the point was, knowing about Jesus Christ is not experiencing Jesus Christ. And it wasn't until I actually opened up the scriptures, and what you do is you don't read insofar as what you want to find out or study, you just start reading. And within a paragraph or two, what happens is God speaks to you. You'll have a sense of calmness, peace. You know that's what he wants you to think about. And you take that with you for the day and contemplate it. And in the evening, you open the Bible and just start reading. It's not a heavy task. And he'll say something else to you. And he slowly starts revealing himself to you. And I started doing this over the past year. And all of a sudden, number two was I started praying like God expects us to pray. Like Jesus prayed. He gave an example. He went out and he looked up to the heavens and he asked the Father, okay, your will be done. And the Italians have a saying, they go, si pronto, when they get on the phone. And that's basically what I'm doing. You open up the scripture and you go, si pronto. Yes, I'm ready. Go ahead, speak. And that's what I started experiencing. To the point that one day I actually had an experience with Jesus, which I realized, yeah, you were real. You are real. It's not like somebody I studied about, somebody in the past. You are real. And it just shook, I couldn't believe it. And I think about my grandfather, he was holy because he talked to God all the time. I should say he listened to God all the time. And I started listening. Let God, because before it was always on my terms. I wanted God to give me the responses. I would say, okay, God, give me a sign, Wait a minute, I'm trying to control God. Father talks about being a disciple. Yeah, you're a servant. You are not the creator, you're the creature. That's Adam and Eve's fault. That was a big thing. They wanted to be a creator. They wanted to be gods. No, I'm a creature. And you know what? The more you find out in this about Jesus Christ, in the second reading, talking about two-edged sword, oh, yeah, because, Saint, there was a famous female saint. And she said, knowing Jesus is like a two-edged sword. Okay? Because what happens is that the more you see how beautiful and great Jesus is, the more you realize you're a schmuck. And you know what? That's when I started feeling, oh my God, my fear. Why have I procrastinated getting to know Jesus? Because he would see who I really was. But you know what? Like the wisdom, talking about the reading on wisdom, that's okay. Jesus came because we're not perfect. And he accepts you. So all of a sudden, I'm developing an unconditional relationship. So I look at my grandfather, and he was a picture worth 1,000 words. He became more and more like Christ because he had a relationship with Christ. And then once you start having a relationship with Christ, is all of a sudden it is like you're commissioned. You want to go and you want to share this. So that's why in the Bible group, being a man that we're going to be putting together, it's not so much studying, it's sharing our experience. Like officials on a football or basketball court, they all see the play from a different angle. Well, each one of you has a different view of Jesus Christ. But the more we talk with each other, the more we share Christ, and vocally with our friends, whatever, the more we get a different perspective. And we grow in seeing like a sphere around an object, seeing from different angles. We grow in our understanding of Jesus. But it starts with experiencing. And that's first opening the Bible. First thing before you go take a shower in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, and let God talk to you. And then you start to recognize God's voice in your life. And basically, I don't see myself retiring because the number one priority in my life now is to always be serving and doing missionary work. That means sharing Christ with other people for the rest of my life. Because that's what we're called to do. It's not a big thing like, this my wealth. What do I value? Well, Jesus was saying to that man, you need to value. You need to get rid of those earthly values, and you need to value me. And that all starts with your talking to Jesus. Well, I should say listening. So if anything, I would gladly, I would encourage you, don't let Satan get in your mind and say, oh, I don't have the time. No, hey, I want to learn from you. So please sign up. We're going to be starting the meeting at 7:30 after the Monday night masses, but that'll be the 19th, not tomorrow, but a week from now. But the important thing is that we need to start sharing with each other what Jesus is doing in our lives. And that's what we get. That's what being a missionary is all about. It's all you sharing your faith. What is Jesus saying to you? So, if anything, get the Bible out. There's extra Bibles back there. If you can't, you don't know where yours is, and just open it up tonight and let God start to talk to you. And that's the beginning of a new relationship. Totally earth-changing. Don't believe in me, believe in him. Thank you.